From so bad it's good cult classics to flops that sunk studios. I'm Gareth, this is What Culture, and we're about to look at the 10 most cringe-worthy vanity projects in movie history. Number 10, Swept Away. When news came out that Madonna was teaming up with her husband, British director Guy Ritchie, to star in Swept Away, a remake of a 1974 movie of the same name, few people were expecting the end result to be even half decent. And those who were optimistic enough to anticipate even something barely passable were in for a shock. Swept Away's levels of terrible acting and poor direction surpassed even the most cynical critic. Now, having a person some would say is prone to vanity, directed by her husband, was hardly going to result in anything much better than Swept Away, was it? But its fully deserved status as a flop has not stopped Madonna from appearing in front of the camera since. Fortunately, most people have realised it's far easier to just avoid anything she appears in. Or are you a fan of Madonna's work on screen? And if so, then shut me up and tell me your favourite Madonna film in the comments. Why not? Number 9, The Brown Bunny. Actor, editor, cinematographer, writer, producer, and director of The Brown Bunny, Vincent Gallo, clearly believes he is more than capable of filling in and doing a better job than other professionals in their field. But while he might in reality be something of a jack of all trades, on the evidence of this self-indulgent car crash of a movie, he's clearly master of none. Unlike, Madonna, Vincent Gallo has proven that he can turn in a decent performance as well as direct with style. His first film, Buffalo 66, is a solid, if sometimes uneven, debut. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for The Brown Bunny, in which Gallo plays a motorcycle rider searching for his lost love. The unsimulated sex scene with Chloe Sevigny certainly caused a probably intended air of controversy. Far more entertaining, though, was the war of words which erupted between Gallo and critic Roger Ebert, who labelled the film the worst film in the history of Cannes. Tell us how you really feel, Roger. Number 8, After Earth. What happens when you take a huge A-list actor, who may or may not be a Scientologist, who teams up with the once great but now a bit inconsistent director M. Night Shyamalan to make a science fiction movie starring his son, which may or may not be, but probably is, based on Scientology? Well, anyone who has seen the risible After Earth knows the answer to that question. What you get is one of the most tedious, dreadfully acted, tensionless science fiction movies in the history of cinema, period. Indeed, if you take the word of some critics at the time of its release, it could well be the worst movie of all time. Now, in its defense, After Earth probably isn't the worst Scientology-inspired movie of all time, more on that later, but you would be hard-pushed to find anyone who sat through nearly 2 hours of Jaden Smith struggling to act like a human being without falling asleep or walking away from the cinema. After Earth represents the evils of nepotism at its worst. Number 7, Glitter. Madonna is not the only hugely successful pop star to have attempted against all sense of decency to inflict herself on the silver screen. Another notorious diva, Mariah Carey, also tried to break into Hollywood and branch out into acting. Comparing Glitter and Swept Away and trying to decide which one is the worst of the two is a little bit like trying to decide whether your murderer should off you with a knife or a gun. Neither option is in the least bit appealing. I mean, it's not quite as extreme as the murderer stuff, but you get the point. It says something about Glitter that the only scenes in which Carey is any good are the ones in which she's singing. She is good at that, to be fair. Some critics have argued that there's a case for Glitter belonging in the dubious so bad it's good category of cinema. And there are some pleasures to be had from fighting the cringing sensation each time the cast open their mouths. But unless you're up for a particularly masochistic viewing experience, you should probably steer well clear. I've warned you. Number 6, Cutthroat Island. Another husband and wife vanity project, which should really have never been produced in the first place, was Cutthroat Island, a swashbuckling misfire starring Gina Davis and directed by her then-husband, Rennie Harlin. Cutthroat Island is said to have single-handedly ruled out the possibility of any pirate-related films until the Pirates of the Caribbean series came along many years later, and it isn't at all hard to see why. Notable as it is for its uniform uniformly awful performances, substandard action set pieces, and a story almost impossible to care about. The sad thing about Cutthroat Island is that not only did the film itself sink at the box office, but it also contributed to the untimely sinking of the studio to which it was attached, Carolco Pictures, who were known for giving their directors more freedom and had brought to the screen Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Total Recall. Two classics right there. Cutthroat Island, though, less so. If you're finding this look at some rather cringe-worthy vanity projects interesting, then hit that subscribe button below for even more of this brilliant What Culture stuff. Number 5, The Green Hornet. On the surface, the movie adaptation of The Green Hornet might not appear like something that should feature on a list of vanity projects. Sure, it's a terrible adaptation of an admittedly very average superhero franchise, but on first glance, it doesn't fit the typical vanity project mold. However, once you realize what The Green Hornet could have been, and how much of a huge facelift and rewrite it got once Seth Rogen got on board as star, co-writer, and executive producer, it becomes increasingly clear just how much was changed to the film. All so that Rogen could infuse it from start to finish with his usual shtick. While Michel Gondry's direction remains the best thing about The Green Hornet, everything else feels completely off. Not least, of course, Rogen's constant goofing and mugging, which strips the film of any potential excitement. Even the usually excellent Christoph Waltz is unmemorable as the villain here, and making him look bad is certainly some achievement. We still love you though, Waltz, it's okay. Number 4, The Postman. The fact that upon the announcement of Modern West, Kevin Costner felt the need to add the caveat that this wasn't a vanity project says everything you need to know about his status as arguably the king of vanity projects. After a string of hits, it was only a matter of time before Costner churned out a truly bloated and self-indulgent movie to satisfy his ego. True to form, he delivered not one, but 2 huge budget vanity project flops. Waterworld, which has since made its money back thanks to the theme park ride of the same name, and The Postman. The Postman is a monumental testament to the power of an actor's ego to drain all good sense out of a movie, until all that remains clinging to the carcass is a surreal mixture of self-important silliness. Critic Gene Siskel hit the nail on the head perfectly, saying that the film should really have been called Dances with Myself. Yikes. But he's Superman's dad too, so I'll always love me some Costner. Number 3, The Mirror Has Two Faces. If the mirror really does have 2 faces, well, you can guarantee both of them reflect the soft-focused, delicately lit face of Barbra Streisand. Few movies in the history of cinema driven by vanity have lavished so much endless attention on their leading lady. But the obsessive manner in which the camera lingers over the various parts of Streisand in The Mirror Has Two Faces becomes much more understandable when you realize that Streisand directed it herself. It is a textbook example of a leading lady vanity project too, centering as it does on the story of an ugly duckling who learns how to be beautiful once again. Fortunately, she's only appeared in 3 films since, 2 of which have earned her much-deserved Razzie Awards nominations. Number 2, Battlefield Earth. Will Smith was not the first person to, allegedly, use Scientology as a model for his disastrous science fiction movie. Before After Earth, another Hollywood star, John Travolta, opted to adapt a portion of the cult's founder, L. Ron Hubbard's novel back in 2000. That novel was called Battlefield Earth, a saga of the year 3000. And to say that the end result of this somewhat twisted vanity project was an unmitigated disaster would be an understatement, really. Battlefield Earth is a cacophony of terrible acting, awful sets, incredibly poor direction, and utterly laughable dialogue wrapped up in one of the most absurd plots ever to grace the screen. Throughout it all, Travolta himself hams it up in what has to be one of the most painfully embarrassing performances. And not just of his career, but of all time. Needless to say, the major Hollywood studios didn't want anything to do with it, with one referring to it accurately as an $80 million vanity project for Travolta. Whether or not the Travolta action figure manufactured, which delivers the line, "Exterminate all man-animals at will," will become a collectible item is anyone's guess. My guess would be no. Number 1, The Room. If there's one thing that all the other entries on this list have in common, it's that the vanity projects were the products works of established movie stars. The same can't be said for the hilariously dreadful The Room, though. Written, produced, directed by, and starring Tommy Wiseau. The fact that Wiseau had financed the movie out of his own pocket to the inexplicable tune of $6 million after being repeatedly rejected by agents speaks to his tenacity. The film itself, unfortunately, demonstrated that there was a very good reason that no one in the industry wanted to take him on. Ostensibly a melodrama about an honest, hard-working, loving man who is cheated on by his fiancée with his best friend, it's not hard to see The Room as a wholesale representation of Wiseau's utterly misguided view of himself as a noble and honorable saint who falls victim to the shortcomings of humanity. It's only when reading The Disaster Artist by Greg Sestero, Wiseau's supporting actor who plays Mark, the cheating best friend, that it becomes clear just how much of a misguided vanity project this truly was. It's also, through no intention of Wiseau's part, one of the greatest so bad it's good movies of all time, fully deserving of the cult following it has accrued since its release. I mean, vanity projects do not get much more unintentionally funny than The Room, do they? Have you enjoyed this video today? Well, if you have, carry on your YouTube journey with What Culture by tapping on another What Culture video right here. You're gonna have so much fun. See you later.